As part of Take a Break, I've been sharing with you some of the things I learned in the last couple of years of my life especially, that I think are really relevant to what is happening today in light of the coronavirus. Early on in life, one of the things that I guess I learned was I needed to be in control of things. I think that's part of human nature. I don't think no child has to be taught that they want to control things. That's why often the first words out of a child's mouth is no. But I also think for myself and perhaps many other people, that learning to, or at least trying to control the circumstances around me was a way of protecting me from emotional hurt and pain. If I can just control the situation, then I won't experience any more emotional or relational pain. And so I grew up trying to control the situation. And it was very interesting to look back over my life and see the times when I lost control. I remember sharing in a Bible study one day that during the day I'd been working in the yard and had left the corral gate open. And sure enough, the head or lead cow saw the gate was open and headed right for the gate. I was too far away to stop her, so I grabbed my hammer and I threw it at her. Of course, it didn't stop her, nor did it stop all the other cows from getting out. Well, after I had rounded up the cows, then I had to go search for my hammer, which by then had been trampled into the mud. I remember the next time we had Bible study, one of the persons in the group said, "Well, did you throw any hammers this week?" What I realized was this: when I began to lose control of a situation, I became angry and frustrated. And the more I sensed I lost control, the more frustrated I became. There were several incidences in my life which really brought that issue to the surface. And I realized I am not in control. Now, I intellectually knew I was not in control in one way, but yet there was always that desire to be in control. And God had to do some serious work in my life to change that. One incident was when I was working on a sheep farm. By the way, when God calls us sheep, that is not a very good compliment. They're the dumbest animal I've ever worked with. But anyway, one of my jobs was involved feeding the animals, and one day, as I was driving the four-wheel drive tractor, I drove right into an old pile of manure. The snow had just covered the top of it, so you couldn't tell it was there. But when I got into the middle of it, I sunk the tractor right into the mud, and I was stuck royally. And I remember climbing out of the cab and sinking up to my knees in the gunk. And I walked behind the tractor and stood in the tracks that the tractor had made. And I threw up my hands in despair and said, "God, I can't take this anymore." My wife and I had been through a lot of trauma in our lives at that point, and I had enough. And I said, "God, I'm done. I can't do it anymore." And the words that came to me were so clear. "Bill, without me, you can do nothing." And I do believe there was a change in my life at that point. Because on a continual basis, I asked God for strength and for help, realizing I wasn't in control and I needed His help. But God did a further work in my life. A couple of years ago when I got Parkinsons disease, and then a year and a half or so later, both my wife and I struggled with cancer, and then I had to face the death of my wife. I faced that whole issue of control again, because there was no way I could be in control. And this time, there was more control of my future, my plans. We were looking forward to retirement and doing all the things on our bucket list. But when we were hit with these setbacks, our entire future changed. And I realized I'm not in control of my future. That I can make plans, but I'm not in control in bringing those plans about. God is in control. And with this recent pandemic and all the setbacks in the financial world, again, to realize we're not in control. Perhaps we thought, wow, I got enough investments, I don't have to worry about things. And suddenly, and how quickly, those investments lost their value. And if we thought that our future was somehow going to be controlled by our finances, well, that's all changed, hasn't it? And so, I just challenge you today that you're not in control. And boy, that message is so contrary to what you hear today. Our government is trying to control this virus. And unfortunately, not once have I heard them ask for prayer. You watch the reports on Netflix and you see stories of, especially people from Hollywood who face dire circumstances. And often the story you hear is, buck up, get strong, be yourself. You can do anything you want. Well, I don't think that when we ask God for help and direction, and when we recognize that God is in control, that means we sit back and do nothing. But it means that as we make plans, we include God in our plans and ask for His direction. Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not lean on your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will direct your paths. Do not lean on your own ability to control the situation or think that you are in control, but in all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will direct your paths. So may I challenge you as you go through this pandemic and this virus and all the changes that have come about. Just recognize who's in control and surrender to His control. And as you make your plans, to ask God to direct you. And know that in the end, He sees it all. His plan is being carried out. He is the one in control, and nothing's going to thwart His plan. So let's join up with Him, and let's be part of that plan, and we will see it come to pass.